Today's episode that I'm going to be reviewing is The Big Bang Theory, Season 1, Episode 14, The Nerdvana Annihilation. The episode gets this title because that's what Howard references later in the episode. He says that their apartment is basically Nerdvana because of all the collectibles that Leonard has accumulated. So in this episode, we begin with Leonard, Sheldon, Roger, and Howard in the apartment. Sheldon's upset that he has a sandwich that was ordered and it's made with the correct ingredients, but they are in the wrong order. He is a very picky individual. Leonard draws everybody's attention to his computer because he's in the middle of an auction for a replica time machine from the movie Time Machine that he thinks is a miniature version, and he has bid $800 because he just wanted to be a part of the auction that he thought would go for thousands, and he's about to win, and he does win. But he's upset because he does have the money, but he said he doesn't have $800 to blow on a time machine, which who does? So the group decides to divide it into fours, each paying $200, and they'll go ahead and get it. But they can't figure out why nobody else bid on this movie prop. So when it does arrive, they figure it out very quickly, and that's because it is not a miniature, it is a full-size replica of the time machine. And honestly, who has space for something like that? We do get an interesting reference here. The elevator's been broken since the beginning of the series, and this is the first time that they really do draw any attention to it. Sheldon even says, should we call somebody about this? I mean, we've seen them go up and down the stairs every episode, never using the elevator, and they never seem to really pay attention to it until now. Howard does say maybe he can fix it because he's a trained engineer, but really he just tries to press the button, taps the door, and says, nope, that baby's broken. But they are faced with a problem here. They need to figure out how to get this giant time machine up the stairs, so they begin struggling pushing it up the stairs, and this creates a problem because they are blocking the stairway, and Penny comes out and she needs to get to work. Sheldon suggests that she go up to the roof, jump across a small gap, go down the stairwell of the next building, and go out. For this part, I actually wonder if this fits Sheldon's character down the line. I'm not sure. I go back and forth because in one aspect, this does fit Sheldon's personality in the regards that he cares more about what he's doing and is only worried about getting the time machine in at the moment. But in another aspect, I feel like if someone asked Sheldon to do this task himself, he would think they were completely insane. So just some thought in the character development of Sheldon as it moves along. So Penny decides to take Sheldon's suggestion and heads out, and they finally do get the time machine into the apartment. They begin discussing it. There's a weird part where Howard's told that he does have to indeed wear pants whenever he's in the time machine. And then they begin to test out the time machine. They pretend that Leonard is traveling through time. This is pretty cool. This actually is a pretty cool movie prop because the disc does spin, the lights turn, and it's an interesting piece of movie memorabilia. The only problem is this thing is huge, and no one could really have this in their collection unless you have an enormous amount of space to store this thing. And moving it would be a nightmare as the four of them discuss how they're going to divide up the time by moving it back and forth between their respective homes. So after they've been having fun for a little bit, Penny comes in and she's very angry because she explains that the gap that Sheldon said was small was actually very large. She tripped, scraped her knee, got across to the other roof. The door was locked. She couldn't get down the stairs. She had to go down the fire escape, which ended at the third floor. And she had to go through an Armenian family's apartment. They made her stay for lunch, which was a lot of lamb, and they tried to set her up with their son. And by the time she got to work, it was too late. They'd given away her shift, so she lost a day's pay because of this. Penny is understandably upset, but then she takes that on them a little bit by saying they're all grown men, shouldn't be playing with toys, and she calls them all pathetic. This mainly has a large effect on Leonard. He's sitting in the time machine at night thinking about what he could have done to prevent this. He wishes he could go back in time to undo the purchase of the time machine. Sheldon comes out and notices that he's upset and talks to him, and Sheldon is more happy for himself that he noticed that somebody's upset because he says he wouldn't normally pick up on that sort of thing. Leonard even has a dream that he had helped Penny when she was stuck by ripping open the elevator shaft and hanging onto the elevator cable and lowering her down. Well, anything can happen in your dreams, but when he woke up, Sheldon was upset because it was his turn in the time machine. The next morning, Leonard continues to be upset, and he has decided to take all of his collectibles and sell them to the comic book store. There's an interesting reference here because Leonard says he's going to sell it to someone named Larry at the comic book shop. Now, this is before they've gone to the comic book store in the show, and we haven't introduced Stuart in the show yet. So I wondered if Larry was just a person at the comic book store that Leonard knows, or if that was an early idea for an owner of the comic book store they go to. And his friend started bidding war for the collectibles that he's trying to get rid of, but he says he doesn't want to sell to any of them because the others would all be mad. And when they try to stop him at the stairs, he threatens to open up his limited edition production error Geordie LaForge action figure with missing visor. A pretty big threat because as any collector knows, once the package is opened, the value is drastically diminished. Penny comes out to see what the commotion is, and Sheldon accuses her of being a hypocrite because she says adults shouldn't play with toys, but he said she probably has Beanie Babies or Care Bears, and her shorts have Hello Kitty on them. Penny kind of understands what's going on and apologizes to Leonard, saying that she was just mad the other day. But Leonard says he needed to hear it and he's going to get rid of the toys anyway. And Penny actually says, good for you in this case. And I think Leonard thinks that this is another opportunity for him to try to go out with Penny, starts to ask her, but then her current boyfriend shows up and ends that pretty quickly. Penny goes back into her apartment with the guy, and this apparently snaps Leonard out of his funk, and he says it's his turn, and they all go back in to play with the time machine some more. And there's one other thing I'd like to draw attention to in this scene. Everybody in the show at times wears cool outfits that I think are pretty cool. In this scene, Howard was wearing a sweater that looked like a Star Trek The Next Generation reference. It's a red and black shirt with a turtleneck underneath and a pip on the neck. So pretty nice and kind of subtle reference. The episode ends with Sheldon having a dream that he had traveled through time and is back in time, like in the movie, and is attacked by flesh-eating Morlocks. He awakens and reveals that he's still in a dream because Leonard had hired movers to get rid of the time machine, and they are flesh-eating Morlocks, which have starving Morlocks on the back of their shirts. And Sheldon finally awakens in his bedroom and screams for Leonard, and this is how we know that this time machine has to go. Also, the time machine was huge and ridiculous and wouldn't have been able to stay in their apartment anyway. This is a fun episode. I love the classic movie references made in this episode, and I love the view of Leonard's various collectibles. For a collector like me, this is fun stuff to see. And we, of course, see that Leonard is still trying to find opportunities to see if he can get together with Penny, although at this point he's still being thwarted time and time again. I do find myself wondering for this episode if it would really have ended up this way with the auction if no one would have bid on such a cool movie prop as this. Again, it's a large and in the way item, but still pretty cool. I feel like this would have gotten scooped up for a pretty good price and would have basically ended up in someone's basement who has a lot of space and a lot of disposable income. I also love Sheldon's dream sequence with the flesh-eating Morlocks and them waking up and having them still around. I love these dreams. It's not the last time Sheldon has dreams like this in the episode with other characters, and it's always a fun thing to see. I give this episode a very high score of a 9 out of 10. Please let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and keep an eye out as always for the next video coming soon.